It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Friday, December 29th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. Today, we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Until the End with Daniel Baker, and we'll also have a Lessons Learned in 2023 word study, and of course, commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone. How are you doing? And I am very excited and very happy right now because today is the last podcast of 2023, so I really want to end it well. With today's segments. Don't forget, we do have Q&A every Thursday, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. If you haven't yet, for this last podcast of 2023, please leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive for all of 2023. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title was A Christmas of Love and Peace, and Thank You was the second title. So yeah, I can't believe it, but it's the last podcast of 2023. I think it's a big milestone for all of us, and especially for MSD. This is the last podcast because the next podcast is going to be January 1st, which is on Monday. So we are reaching to the end of the Morning Star Drive for 2023. I am super thankful for everyone who supported and listened to us this entire year. So many things to be thankful for. So many things we need to look back and just be in awe of what God has done. Lots of things to really think about too. And that's kind of what I want to focus on with today's podcast because it is the last podcast of 2023. Just kind of reflecting back. Where are we going to go? What happened this year? Where are we going to go in the future? The things that have kind of been in my mind also. But I'm just very grateful and thankful because we have reached this point that we never thought we were going to reach. And this weekend's the last weekend, and this is the last podcast. So I'm super excited and happy. This first segment, we're just going to kind of reflect back on our thoughts over the last year. And then on top of it, for the second section, word study, we're going to take a look at the 5 lessons learned from going through all these experiences of this year. And then, of course, we'll have Until the End with Daniel Baker. It's going to be the last segment for today and for not just the entire week, but for the entire year. So he's going to give his remarks on 2023 too. So I'm just very grateful, thankful. And let's go into some things about this year. Like the things, we all know what happened this year. I've been over it many, many times. And going through this experience has made all of us think more deeply about ourselves and think more deeply about God's history. And I think one of the things that one of the benefits of this year going through this difficult time is it really made us look at ourselves and this history to question the things that we never questioned before, but the things that we just thought were obvious, like, this is the history of God. So, I believe in the man of mission. And these are just regular things that we took for granted, but we never deeply went into, right? And this year, especially, it just made us look at ourselves, question this history, and really understand why we are here. And, I think it's very obvious that it was not an easy battle in our hearts and our minds. And I would say what made it even more difficult was the struggling because of the pandemic that happened right before. Like, if I were to talk about what happened even before during the pandemic is like for myself as a crazy extrovert, like the pandemic, it made me struggle in my daily faith because I was constantly alone. You kind of get yourself into this mini depression because you're not talking to people, you're not socializing just because I'm an extrovert, right? And, right after the pandemic begins to die down, 2023 comes along and another bomb drops that no one was ready for. And, 2022 was actually a time where the pandemic was kind of finishing up and it was a time of recovery. And I was recovering from the pandemic, just making sure that my mental state was in the right place and recovering spiritually, like my daily faith. But then before I had any chance to recover, just so many new surprises came. Like, for instance, when KJS came in and said that stars were supposed to get married and stuff like that too, it kind of like threw everything like off kilt. And then of course in March, more bombs drop. So you could say that 2023 was the ultimate test. If you think even more deeply about it, like it makes us question predestination, or makes us ask God, was this predestined? Was this supposed to happen? But from what we understand about the history of God and the principles that God has put into this history and human beings, is that, KJS took this path because it was her own free will. She had the free will to make either decision, whether to fall into temptation or to resist temptation. And because of her free will, she made her choice. And it wasn't predestined. She just failed the test, right? And if you think about this too, what God is telling us is, all the choices and the decisions we make in our life, they all have consequences. They all have ramifications. And some are larger than others. And since she was the restored Eve, her choice had massive ramifications on this history. We just don't fully understand it yet, and we're not going to see it right away, but probably there's going to be more word in the future of how much damage her decision caused. And we are living in this cause and effect history that, even though we're living in a cause and effect history and our choices make an impact, no matter what, this history will always end at the same point. It's kind of like that revelation I had when I was in Taiwan looking at that river. The river leads to the ocean. It's always going to lead to the same point. And there's going to be these rocks and trees and boulders that, change the direction of the river, but it's always going to reach the ocean. And what it means is, in this history too, in God's history, salvation will always be the last point. Regardless of what we say, what we do, it will always reach salvation in the end. It will always flow to the place that God wants. The difference is the path it takes to get there will be different dependent upon all our decisions we make, right? So we see even now, where is this history going? Like, where is this history going to go? And now that 2023 is finished, we can look back and we can also look forward. Now, this, what I'm saying right now is that history is not shattered. The history is not dead, and it will never die off. It's just a matter of understanding history at a higher level. Understanding, where do we go from here? What should we do now? What's the next big step that we should be kind of pushing ourselves towards? And I'll tell you one thing, is the one thing I am certain of is that we have not lived up to the building of brides of this history, like to the fullest extent, like as a whole. How we testified, how much we testified, testifying correctly, having that heart that is unafraid of consequences that come when we make our minds up for this history. And if we think about this, it's like some people will say that they live the life of full testimony, but sometimes it's not about the testimony either. Sometimes it's about, did we fix our character also? And, even when we testify, do we testify correctly or powerfully? Like, even one of the messages that came out recently was the message of the 3 different types of people from the Samaritan woman message, right? And this makes us feel it even more is, are you the Samaritan woman that realized early and received the joy from the beginning? Are you Peter, who realized later, but then history already took a turn? Or are we Paul, that we realized after Jesus died? And this makes me think really deeply about this history and myself too. When did I realize? To what extent? And do I have any regrets or anything along that line? Right? Like, the question I could ask myself, and we could all ask each other, is, have we been the best ambassadors for this history? Like, looking at our actions and our words. Are they worthy of a bride in this history? Like, if you look at Matthew chapter 5, verse 14 through 16, Jesus says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So the question here is, have we been the best examples in front of our friends and family? Have we been that great example for our colleagues or our co-workers? Have we also been that example for ourselves? Like when you're alone and when it's just you and God. When you look at Galatians chapter 5, verse 13, it says, "For you were called to freedom. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another." Right? So when you look at this is, have you been a great bride of this history even when you're alone? Even when there's people around, right? And that's why this year is a very big time of reflection. A time to reflect on ourselves in such a way that we can consider this the time, if we, during this time of reflection, do we have that conviction of faith? Or is this a time that we convict ourselves in faith and hope in this history? The identity of self, which is who am I? Are you a bride? And then some people do tell me, I'm a bride, but why am I so unhappy? Why am I feeling unfulfilled? And another question I would give is, if you are unfulfilled, then you need to ask yourself, have you done everything with all your heart? Are you running with all your heart, with the prayer, with the running for this history, doing everything that God wants? Because if you have, then I think you'll be in a better position to truly judge whether this path is right or wrong. Have you lived this life to the fullest, to the most meaning? And one thing that I have heard before is, a lot of times these are people that used to live powerfully in the past, but are not now, right? And they might not be as active as they are in the past. And I think those are two different things. Because the bigger question is, are you living right now in that way? Because one thing we know about faith is that it truly requires us to maintain it every day. Once you stop maintaining your faith, you lose that fire. You lose the hope and the love. And then you start questioning, was it all worth it or not? So I would say that you shouldn't base your happiness in this history on the past. When you were running fiery, it's about right now. Because, even for me, when I was on fire in this history, for the first 21 years of my life, I had no regrets. I was super thankful that I could run. I had zero complaints. I only had complaints sometimes after the fact, but during the time, I had no complaints. Right? The time I complained when I was less spiritual. The time I complained is when I was less on fire and less involved. And that's something that we have to think to ourselves is, you can't look at the past and say, I gave my life for this history, but look at me now. I think that's a really bad way to look at it. Because it kind of reminds me of this story, right? I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this. It's called the story of the Mexican fisherman. And the story goes like this. There was this really rich American investment banker, and he was at the pier of a small coastal Mexican village. And late one morning, he looked and he saw this small boat that was docked. And inside the small boat was just one fisherman who had already caught several large fish. So the American complimented the fisherman on the fish and asked how long it took to catch them. And the fisherman replied, yeah, just a little while. The American then asked, why didn't he stay out longer and catch more fish? And the Mexican said, well, I've caught enough to provide for my family's needs for quite a while, and, even to give some fish away to others in the village. The American then asked, but what do you do with the rest of your time? And the fisherman said, sleep late, play with my children, take siestas with my wife, stroll into the village where I sip wine and play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life. The American scoffed and said, I am an experienced businessman and can help you. You should spend more time fishing, and with the proceeds, buy a bigger boat. And with the proceeds from the bigger boat, you could have a fleet of fishing boats, open up your own cannery, and control all of the distribution. And then he said, of course, you would need to leave this small coastal fishing village and move to a bigger city to run the expanding enterprise. The Mexican fisherman then asked, how long is that going to take? And the American replied, about 15 to 20 years. And then the Mexican asked, but what then? And the American laughed and said, that's the best part. When the time was right, you would sell your company, become very rich, and you would make millions. And the Mexican said, millions? And then what? The American said, then you could retire, move to a small coastal village where you could sleep late, play with your kids, take siestas with your wife, and stroll to the village where you could sip wine and play guitar with your amigos. And the Mexican fisherman said, I already do that. And it's quite interesting because, the reason why it reminds me of this story is because a lot of times we are searching for something that we already have. You know what I mean? We're searching for something that we already have. It's the one thing that we've always wanted, like that deep meaning, that meaning in life, knowing why I'm doing something. More than oh, come on, man, now that you've done this, let's go start this, and let's make a ton of money, and let's do this, and let's do this, and let's do this. But in the end, it boils down to the thing that you already had. And even me, when I was running in this history for 21 years, never complained. I was like, oh my gosh, what more can I do for this history? What can I do more for God? What else can I do? What else can I give my life for? And after, you retire and you're put in a position where, you might have to work, you might have to do this or that. Kind of get yourself into a position where you're like, yeah, I want more. I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And if I have these things, then I'm going to be happy. And, sometimes we get caught up in that, well, my happiness is based on how much savings I have, or if I have a house or a car. And the bigger question is, what did you really want from the very beginning? And we have to think about this too. When I was on fire and running this history, traveling from country to country, I was happy, I was thankful, and I was living a meaningful life, helping people. And even when I started to make some money, I gave it all back to Wilmington. I said, hey, this is for Wilmington. Let me go live my meaningful life. And it's only kind of after everything's said and done, and I become less spiritual, do less things for God, where I start to think about those physical things. Because I'm not living as meaningful of a life as I had before. Now, I'm not telling everyone out there that you have to run full time and be on fire in order for you to live a meaningful life. But my point is that sometimes you already had everything that you wanted and everything that you needed. When I was running full time, I didn't need the car or the house or all these other different things. It's only when I stopped, I thought to myself that I needed those things for me to be happy. And us being in this history, we have to remember we have already received the greatest of greatest things, which is eternal life, which is salvation. And if we forget that, then we start thinking that, well, why did I run all this hard in this history when all I have is this? Or when all I have is that? My pockets are empty. I don't have a place to stay. And what God is telling us is, you have received the one thing that is greater than all the riches on this earth. You have figured out why you are living, and you fulfilled it. you fulfilled the purpose of creation. Everything else is just a bonus. Everything else is just an add-on. It's like when you go to a restaurant, if you order steak, steak is the main menu. You just got to hope that the steak is awesome. But sometimes people are too concerned with the add-ons. What? I don't get any broccoli? What? I don't get any mashed potatoes? Oh, what? I don't have this or I don't have that. But the most important thing is the steak itself. That's what you ordered. And it's something that I think one of the things that I found really early on in life was that when I was really young, you go to McDonald's and I order my my Filet-O-Fish sandwich. I really liked them in the past. And I would eat all my fries first. I would drink all my drink. And I would take my Filet-O-Fish home with me. Because I thought to myself, that was, for me, that was the most important part. I saved that for last. But I realized, that's the main menu. That's the whole thing that I wanted. And when does it taste the best? When it's fresh and hot. If that's the main menu, that's the thing you should eat first. It's the most delicious. It's the most important thing. And I was looking at that. I was like, yeah, we have to look at ourselves right now and just be thankful. And this has nothing to do with whether you have money or not. This is more importantly thinking and looking at yourselves and saying, we have already received the greatest gift, the greatest blessing. And in this history right now, at this given moment, it's the rapture. Fulfilling the purpose of creation while the man of mission is living on this earth. There is nothing greater than that. There's nothing bigger than that. And we have to kind of bring ourselves back, come back to our senses and realize this is the greatest thing. And a lot of times, what happens to people, I'm going to talk about the experience of a full-time person stop being full-time Providence. People start, they've never tasted money. They've never tasted having good food or great food and going on vacations and stuff. And sometimes you just get caught up in it. And you just want the designer bags and you want to be at the best hotels and you want to just start making money and earning money more than anything else. And you know what? God will bless you. But he didn't bless you for that to become the center point. He didn't bless you so that would be everything to you. He blessed you and he says, I'm going to take care of you, so don't worry about it. Don't worry. Even me, after retiring from full-time work, I stopped being a head leader in 2019. At the end of 2019, so beginning of 2020. 2020 for the last 3 years. For 3 years, I have not, God has taken care of me. God has really taken care of me, and I am grateful and thankful. And I have to bring my heart back to that original point. What's the original point? I already have received the greatest of greatest blessings. And I cannot forget this. It's the rapture. Not only just learning the purpose of creation, learning what my purpose in life, why God created me, but the rapture was us actually fulfilling it. And guess what? Some people are going to fall along the way. Some people are going to have, some people are going to, lose sight of what the goals are or what the purpose and the rapture actually is. And they're going to fall to the wayside. But we have to realize that we have already received the greatest of all greatest things. And I really hope and pray that all of us will really have that mentality and mindset, that we will get ourselves to that position and to that point where we realize right now, yes, God, this is it. We are so blessed that even when I look at the martyrs of Christianity, they were okay to give their life because they received eternal life. They were not talking about, oh, I don't have a house. Oh, look at my savings. Oh, look at this or look at that. They had everything because they knew what the most important thing was. And I really hope too that we will bring ourselves to that position, knowing and understanding where we actually stand and how meaningful and how great our lives really are. There are a lot of things to think about this year, right? A lot of things like predestination. What part of it was predestined? I would have to tell you, the temptation is always predestined because Satan's going to always try to tempt us. That's predestined, absolutely. We're all going to receive temptation. And the higher you are, the higher the position you hold, the more temptation you're going to receive. That's a guaranteed. But what is not predestined, absolutely, is what choice we make. And that is something that we are going to make. That is our choice. And our choice is going to have a consequence, whether it's a blessing or a misfortune. And we've especially seen it this year that many people did choose misfortune. Many people did choose to go in a direction they shouldn't have gone on. And we have to be those that are clear in our thoughts and really think about, this year was a crazy year. And it made me ask myself questions that I never asked before. How much do I know the Lord? How much do I truly know this history? How much do I truly know the Word? How convicted am I? Right? If someone was to ask me a question about this history, could I answer it? Or have I just been kind of going with the flow, like Peter did, until he finally realized? And I think that's something that all of us have to really take into consideration. And as we have this last weekend for us to think about this, we have today, tomorrow, and Sunday, and then a new year is going to begin with a brand new theme. And I really hope that we will prepare ourselves, that not only will we give glory for the next 15 days, but we're really, really going to be those that come out and come out knowing exactly where we stand, the things that we need to improve, and bring ourselves to that next level. All right? So I am very grateful. I am super thankful. There's just too much that we realized, too many things that we truly realized and understood. And I really hope and pray that all of us will have that mentality that takes us to the next level, that mentality that will help us to move into the new year properly. And, I would have to say one of the big things that I'm very, very grateful and thankful for is that we had each other to support each other. Right? It wasn't just the Morning Star Drive. It was us in our churches, the people around there supporting us, supporting each and every one of us. And I hope it's something that all of us can really pray and give thanks to, that God worked through the people around us also. All right? So a lot of different thoughts that came out from just looking at this past year. And I hope it's something that all of us can look even more deeply into. The word study for today is going to go into like 5. Maybe I'm going to add a 6th. I just realized something else to put on my 6th thing. Of lessons learned from 2023. I really hope that this will be something that's very encouraging and helpful for everyone else too. So before we get into the lessons learned from 2023, let's get into the first break of the day.
2023. We've all come a long way. Many different stories, but we're all on the same journey. Many, many ups and downs, but we're all still around. Many, many, many lessons, but each one came with a blessing. Let's not forget for where we come from when we make this confession. Some people just want to watch the world burn. As for you and I, let's set ourselves on fire, shine a light so bright that will make the people say, burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say, born sinner, never could be iller. No, I'm back from the dead, yeah, the Lord is my healer. I took the red pill, that's why I call him teacher. When you learn about the spirit, oh, there ain't nothing realer. The one you learn from determines your entire destiny. Learn from the one who taught about eternity. Cloud craving, paper chasing, the joy is only temporary. I don't wanna do the same thing, so I hard to count the vanity. I keep my eyes on the prize, I'll never sell my soul to the devil in disguise. With both hands on each side, I'm holding on to dear life. I keep my guard up, never back down. When it goes down, I call on the Christ. Spiritual battle, answer the call. It's Call of Duty, modern warfare. Put the armor of God. They're fighting Lucy with a rock. I got atomic bombs. Love the Lord your God and all your brothers. Watch the demons fall. Don't be deceived. Know who the ops is. Keep the unity and peace. Go far way across this. Came to preach the word of God like I'm born in Tarsus. Here to testify the things I've seen on road to Damascus. He's the real deal, the real thing. Be glad you heard the King's speech. Blessed are those who reach the end and get to hear the Lord speak. GODs, POC, we fulfilled everything. Burning life, kerosene, burning life, legacy.
You will never see me stop in the future. The life that fulfills God's will continue. Everyone thinks I'm unfortunate because I go through suffering. But inside of me it's different. Because I walk the path of eternal life.
Burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for a downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? Or we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say,
like Mary poured out her perfume on Jesus' feet, I must pour out my heart, mind, and love on the one who saved me.
All right, so let's get into today's word study. And once again, this is the last podcast of 2023 because the next one on Monday is going to be January 1st. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different. Because it's the last podcast of the year, I want to talk about the lessons learned from 2023. And I have 5, but I had just added a 6th while I was talking in the first segment. I was like, oh, we should realize this too. But let's get into 6 different lessons that we learned from 2023. And the first one I would say is there is only one head. And I think we're pretty clear about this after what happened this year. There is only one head that is 100% trustable. Everything else must be checked and balanced. And, no one is above the rules and laws that have been set forth by the heavens. But only one head. And basically means not putting any absolute trust in a single person who is not the head. Right? It's not saying do not trust people, but we're talking absolute trust. As Sunseem has always stated, he sends people for specific reasons. And people should not go outside of their mission that was given to them. So, when you look at KJS, she was given a specific mission, but it definitely wasn't Sunseem's mission, which means, we don't give her free reign to do whatever she wants in any area, right? We have to get ourselves back to that position of there is only one head, and that's it. There's no one else. And if we come back to that conclusion, we're going to be safe in the future. And we talked about this all this year is we gave too much power to one person, too much trust, when that was what's reserved for Sunseem and not for her, right? The second lesson that I thought was very important is everyone is susceptible to temptation. There's no one above it. And the higher you go in this history, the more temptation you will face. So we see that power, money, and sex plays such a huge role in temptation, and that is something that we must really make sure that no one, especially spiritual leaders, are put in positions so that they're not going to be tempted by such things. If I were to give you some examples of this, I think one of the lessons we learned is, say a head leader should never be in charge of finances in a church. They should never be a deciding factor in it. And if anything, they should never have sole custody or power of money in the church. It's just kind of asking for trouble. And since money is a temptation, we should never have one person in charge of finances ever also, right? If it comes to, temptation of the opposite sex, head leaders should always be transparent about who they're meeting, where they're going. So even in the situations that they meet the opposite sex, say one-on-one, the door must be left open, or they report to an AL, report to department leader or something, or even HQ, something along that sort, where they can be very open, hey, I'm meeting this person. It's kind of situation that must be resolved and I have to talk to this person privately, so I'm just letting you know that I'm going to be meeting this person, right? It should be transparent. Nothing should be done in secret. Another example could be if anyone is in a powerful position, there's got to be some checks and balances so they don't amass too much power, right? Like as we've seen even in Providence history, that many of the people in the biggest positions have succumbed to temptations. Like, not just 2023, but in 1999, it was also the second in command that succumbed to power, right? That power that led to money and sex problems too, right? So, and also not just that position, like being the number two, but also the people who were like, the people who were in charge of Korea Providence, where a ton of money was flowing through. That's where a lot of issues came, where I can name 3 people off the top of my head who succumbed to those temptations also. Right? It's not an easy position to be in a position of such power, right? And it can get to our heads, but we need those checks and balances because we're all human. We all have limitations to what we're able to overcome. And, we need to be those people that understand that there's not a single person out there who is not susceptible to temptation, right? There's only one head, and that's the person we trust. And then after that, we know that everyone else is going to go through those difficulties, right? I would say a third thing that we have to, for me, that a lesson learned from this year is not making decisions with emotions. Like many people have come forward and accused Sunstream, but no one has had any powerful evidence, right? Like what are the 4 biggest evidences? It's videos, photo, audio, or DNA. Like those are the 4 massive, powerful evidences we have, which means that a lot of it is hearsay, right? It's what people said happened, but nothing substantial. And, one of the reasons why we do believe these people is because we know these people and trust them. So we easily believe all the more. And it becomes more of an emotional decision instead of a reasonable and rational decision, right? Now, I'm not saying that if someone comes to you with these issues and says, oh, this happened to them, I'm not saying to you, go to them and say, hey, what's your evidence? You have to prove to me this. I'm not saying that. We still have to be empathetic. We still have to be people that care and support for these people, right? So I'm not saying don't support these people that you're close to, but I do think we should support them emotionally. Meaning, if someone close to me said that these things happened to them, I will support them emotionally. And that has nothing to do with me believing what they say or not. It's about supporting them in that time of difficulty. I can still support my friends emotionally, support what they are going through without fully making a decision. If they are distraught, they're going through something terrible, if they need support, I can support them. But when it comes to actually believing in their story as true fact, if something is that big of an accusation, that true fact needs investigation and some time. It really does. Because we're living in a society where people do lie, where people do say things or embellish what actually happened. And we have to make sure that we listen to both sides, especially if we know both sides. Like we know Sunstream and the accuser. And since we know both sides, how can someone say to you, well, why don't you believe me? And it's like, hey, I know both sides and I need to support both sides. So please don't ask me to say that I'm 100% on you. I have to support both sides, not just one. You know what I mean? Like it would be unfair for you to say, you know me, so support me and believe me, but then I know the other side too, right? So, the third lesson is definitely about not making any decisions based on emotions. The fourth thing that I would say that's a lesson learned from 2023 is it's about our conviction in faith, right? And it brings us to the point of realizing how much we truly know about the Lord, right? Do I really know the Lord correctly? Do I really know the Word well? Do I value the Word? Do I value being in this history? Do I know what it means to be a bride? Right? And this requires me to question myself, to learn again, to really see if I understand clearly the concepts, the principles that have been given to us, and understanding the true nature of God and the Lord. right? And, this is one of the big things is it is the self-reflection and questioning ourselves to understand, do I really, really understand what I believe? The fifth thing that I'd say would be, which is really important, or a lesson learned from this year, is realizing the shimjung of God. Now, this is something I think is a little bit is much deeper, because after all these things have happened in 2023, sometimes we get too stuck on ourselves and just thinking about our own survival. But many people will overlook one of the most important points is, how does God feel? What is God's shimjung at this time? Just sometimes we're so engrossed in our own world, in our own thoughts, that we forget to look at God and see what God is going through. Right? We've gone through so much this year, but how many people have actually thought about what God has gone through? Right? We know how crazy this year was, but do we know how crazy it was for Sunsim, how crazy it was for God to have absolute betrayal at the highest level because she was the closest one to our Sunsim? Can we really imagine the hurt and pain? Remember we heard from this week's message that the spirit feels more than the body, which is quite shocking. So if the body feels at a certain level, the spirit feels even more, which means that God and the Holy Trinity and Jesus were suffering even more than we were. So think about this. Look at the shock and trauma from what happened this year and what we're still dealing with right now. And if the Holy Trinity and Jesus are feeling it that much more, millions of times more than us, then can you imagine what God's shimjung is? God is millions of times more sensitive than we are. But yet, God can still love these people and want them to repent and want them to go to heaven. And I think maybe that's what makes us feel that God doesn't have emotion, because he can still forgive them. Because in our emotion, we're like, how can we forgive such people? But here is God already wanting to forgive them, wants to make sure that they have a chance still. And I think that could be something that stops us from realizing more deeply, because we're like, well, I think God doesn't feel it because he's already trying to forgive them, right? But it's just that God is greater than we are. His love is so much more bigger. And I would say the sixth thing that I was thinking about while I was talking in the first segment was realizing the power of repeating history. Think about all the things that happened this year. Remember when all of a sudden people are like, what? Is that not Sunsee's? I thought this was Sunsee's mission. Isn't this Sunsee's mission? People got so confused. And what did I tell everyone? I was like, dude, everyone, calm down. This happened before in 2008. Just tell you right now, this is a situation circumstance. This is what happens right now. And I'll tell you, just wait till the end of the year and you'll find out that nothing has changed. Just wait till the end of the year. And guess what happened? Exactly as I said. Not because I'm a prophet, not because I'm more spiritual than you guys, because the principle still remains that there's a repeating history, right? Yeah, I've seen it before. People are freaking out like, oh my gosh, is he rejecting his mission? Is he really the one that God... I'm like, guys, we've seen this before. Chill out. By the end of this year, everything will be back to where it was before. And guess where we are right now? Back to where we were even before this happened. It's the same. The principle is that powerful. And the thing we have to learn is that now that we are equipped, because now we've experienced, some of you are experiencing this for the first time. The next time something big like this happens again, you will be ready, right? You'll be like, I've been through this before. And the last time, we just had to wait for more information to come out, not making any hasty decisions, right? Yeah, Netflix came out. That audio, let's just wait on it. They're doing forensics on it. Let's just see what's going to happen. Oh, Sunsee's mission? Hey, we've seen this happen before. Just wait until the end of the year. Don't worry right now. Things have not changed. And the more and more we look back at this year, and all the things that we went through, all the things that went through in our hearts and our minds, we now are even more equipped for the next big battle that we have with Satan. It's not going to be as big because we've already been through it. Do you think there's going to be anything bigger than this happen? And the answer is no. I think 2023 is going to be the biggest, right? I think it's going to be the biggest. Everything else, we're being prepared, we're made ready, and we're going to be able to go through whatever we go through again. It's not going to hit us as hard because we've been through it before, right? And I think that's a big lesson learned, is understanding how powerful repeating history is. We've gone through it. I feel, some people may think, oh, Pastor Sky, you're so spiritual. How did you know that the mission will be cleared up by the end of the year? And the answer is just that I've been through it before. That's it. Like, one of the things that people do ask me all the time is there a Bible question that you don't know? And the answer is absolutely. It's just that I've been teaching and lecturing for so long in Providence, and everyone asks relatively the same question. And that's why it seems like I know every answer, is because everyone kind of asks the same question. I just have more experience. And that's something that we look at and say, oh, that's what actually happened. That's what's actually going on. And that's the whole point. We've been through it before. We've heard these questions before. We've seen this happen before. Now, all of us are equipped. Let's realize, there's a principle of repeating history, and we're going to go through these like mini versions of what happened this year in small parts of our life too, or in our churches and such also. And we got to be those that don't do it emotionally, don't judge too hastily, but we have to be those that are completely ready for whatever happens. Right? So those are some of the 6 things that I really thought about were lessons learned from what we went through in 2023. And I hope it's something that you guys can go through yourselves over this entire weekend. What are the things that you've learned? Post in the comments. Would love to hear what you guys realized from all the stuff that you've been through in 2023. All right? So there it is, guys. That is the end of our word study section, lessons learned in 2023. And I hope that you guys can write yours in the comments below. And let's get into our second break before we listen to Until the End with Daniel Baker.
To live with God in my heart. The tears you shed pray all night long. Your love and light at the break of dawn. The days when you were gone. Your words stay here in my heart. I'll hold on to you tightly, Lord. Your word is your love, I'm not alone. Now even if this dark world is frightening, wind and waves and thunders crashing, no matter what, our love will not change. You're with me and I'm with you. I will always love you, no matter if the world forsakes you. From all the love and miracles through you, I've witnessed the truth. I'll fly high with you. I will never leave you, no matter if the world forsakes you. With all the love and blessings from you, I'll never forget all that you've done for me. To live with God in my heart. I will not waver to wrong thoughts. I'll stay right here where I belong. You suffered all along. crashing. No matter what, our love will not change. You're with me and I'm with you. I will always, always love you. No matter if the world forsakes you, your love for God burns so brightly. Rise out of ashes, your light will set me free. I will never leave you, no matter if the world forsakes you. With all the love and blessings from you, I'll never forget all that you've done for me.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment for today, for this week, and for this entire year of 2023. I've had the pleasure and the blessing to be with Daniel for the last 10 days and his entire family, and I hope that you guys will really enjoy this until the end with Daniel Baker as we send off 2023 with this last segment of the MSD podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Do It Until the End podcast. Now, today I'm in Malaysia and it's currently thundering and raining. It's the monsoon season over here. So, if you hear any lightning, if you hear any rain, it'll just be like background music for you guys. Now, it is the last podcast of 2023. I want to say to everyone listening to this podcast right now, congratulations on making it until the end of 2023. 2023 was the year prophesied by Daniel. This was the year of massive blessings, but also massive hardships. And this is a massive milestone for God's history. Now, I just want to say before I go into the meat of the podcast segment, it's been a massive pleasure and honor to be a part of your daily life with this podcast segment, and it's an honor to be the last segment of this year. Now, at the start of this year, we had these great expectations for this year, right? I remember saying to myself something like this. This is going to be the year that Sensei's name will be cleared. Or I remember saying that this is the year Providence will be freed from the grasp of the media. And yeah, I remember I was really blind during that time, right? Yeah, I think a lot of people really think that this was going to be the year that either, number one, Providence will either get received in the media, received within the culture of Korea. But obviously, this was not the case, right? But, there's multiple ways we can look at this year, right? You can either see this as a massive, this year was so hard. You can see it in a negative way. But I mostly see this year as a blessing. Why? Because this year was a massive time of cleaning within Providence. Now, through my father, I really heard a really interesting Sensei story, right? This was when Sensei was in New Zealand around the 2000s era. And when Sensei was in New Zealand, and he was walking around a park, and he saw this massive tree. This massive tree was not pruned, though. It wasn't efficient, let's say. There was, quote unquote, a lot of sin if you're thinking that the tree is a parable, right? And he saw this tree and said that if a storm comes, the tree has so much weight that the dirt around the tree will get soft, and the storm, the storm and the massive winds that the storm creates will make the tree knock over, right? The roots will get uplifted. Now, what happens a couple weeks later in New Zealand? That huge tree that Sensei pointed at, it fell down and the roots were uplifted. It died. Now, through a great storm, the trees that are overgrown, the trees that have the extra sin, their roots will get picked out. And that's what happened during this 2023, right? Now, why is this a blessing? It is such an unfortunate fact that people left Providence during this 2023. But before Providence goes into the next level, before we go forward, we need to get our basics correct, right? Our basic foundation needs to be focused on 선생님 before we, exponentially grow in Providence. We cannot, and we don't have time to be focused on other people, right? We don't have time, and this is why, God revealed everything about KJS, right? We shouldn't have been focused on KJS, more about 선생님. And because she made a lot of mistakes, small incremental mistakes that grew into like a mountain of sin. Because of that, and also because we were focusing too much on her, there was this massive judgment within 2023. And there was this massive level of cleaning within Providence. So this is a massive blessing, right? Now, here's a couple things that I realized about in 2023. Now, in the show Dr. House, this is a show that I really enjoy because Dr. House as a character is very snarky, a little bit cheesy. But there's this famous quote that he has. The famous quote is, "Everyone lies." Now, everyone lies except for 선생님, of course. But people have many reasons to lie. This is what I realized in 2023. People have endless motivations, endless amount of motivations to lie to people, to your face, to everything. Now, another thing I realized was 2023 was so difficult that, individually you might get a much bigger difficulty. But if we stick to the Trinity's word and act upon the word and, focus on 선생님 and Jesus who came as a bride, my hope is that Providence will block future instances of that happened within 2023, and we won't get as into as dire situation as we are in right now. My hope is that because 2023 was so difficult, we will spend so much of our resources either, number one, evangelizing a lot of people so Providence can really shine, and number two, so we can block any kind of situation like this from happening ever again, right? So we must not forget the difficulties and hardships that we went through during 2023, because if we fall, to something smaller, to a smaller difficulties than 2023, then why did we suffer? Why did we, struggle so much to go until the end? And we came to the end, and then a couple years later, we forget about 2023 and oh yeah, and then we stumble, right? We must not forget about 2023. Now, when we go into the new year, 2024, there's a couple things we must do. And this is going to be my wrap up for this podcast segment. There's a couple things we must do. Number one, we must not let our guard down, right? Within boxing, if you let your guard down, we're constantly going to get punches. We don't want to get too comfortable, right? We don't want to say, 2023 was so difficult. 2024, 2025, it's not going to be as difficult, right? We cannot think like that. We don't have the luxury. If we give a little bit of our heart, or if we give an inch to Satan, then through that inch, it's like a bullet hole. Through that bullet hole, it can get a little bit bigger. But if you don't, get operation on that bullet hole, it's going to get worse. It's going to get increased in size. So we must not let our guard down. We must keep going on this self-developing journey. We need to be better. This is what I always said to the SS when I was doing the SS leader job. We as Providence people are the best. We are the best testimony to something, right? If people see us, if people interact with us and say, "Whoa, dude, you're like 20, but how you deal with people, how you deal with stress, tribulations, it's like, oh, you're different from other people. You're amazing. How did you get this amazing?" And then, wow, who taught you this? Then you introduce them to something. Even though, they watch Netflix or do anything like that, they see slandering about Providence. If they see you, and they see something through you, then that's the best testimony, right? That's why we need to develop ourselves. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is the message Sensei gave during the start of this year and last year. So Sensei said, and this is the Trinity's word, that there will be much blessing to those who goes until the end of 2003. Yeah, because it was interesting because Sensei knew that 2023 was going to be a difficult year. And we were blind. I was blind. I thought 2023 was going to be a breeze. But because it was so difficult and because there was a massive cleaning within Providence has a much better chance of really succeeding in the future, in my opinion. So, I hope everyone has an amazing last couple days of 2023. Spend a lot of time with family. Spend a lot of time really thinking about and reflecting about this year and what I really need to improve on for next year. I really hope and I'm planning to keep on doing this podcast for next year. It's been a blast to consistently give you guys and make some content, and I hope you guys enjoyed this whole year of podcasts, and I really want to thank everyone, the Trinity, Pastor Sky, my family, give the SS. I hope everyone has an amazing time, and let's go until the end in 2024 too. So I hope everyone has an amazing rest of the year. To everyone who goes until the end within this year and next year, let's walk this path together. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
And there it is. That is the last segment of 2023 for the Morning Star Drive. Yes, on Monday, we will be into 2024, so I'm super excited about that too. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this entire year, this difficult and arduous year, but we made it through. And this is the last podcast of the Morning Star Drive for 2023. I can't wait to see you guys next year, which is on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Spend it meaningfully together with the Holy Trinity and the Lord, and I hope that all of us will really have that mentality and mindset to really make 2024 not even a recovery year, but we'll make it a powerful and amazing year together with the Lord. All right, everyone, signing out for 2023. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you guys again in 2024.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign. Just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this.